we got this video from Anthony Padilla. It's called "Are Trans Athletes Cheating?" Interesting topic of conversation. I know that this is like a big point of contention for people, and I understand it because there are some biological advantages. Ideally, you know, that's just the reality. And since we haven't figured it out, I think it would be mostly fair to leave things as they are until we do figure that out. I don't know if I'd call it cheating, though, because, you know, definitionally, cheating is dishonestly or unfairly, and acting dishonestly or unfairly in order to gain advantage. I don't think there's a single trans athlete that's trying to have an advantage over somebody. I think it's that, you know, these are trans people who want to live their truth, and they want to compete in sports because it makes them feel validated, and I get that, and I respect that, and I think that ideally they should be able to, but if there is a significant advantage, which the data seems to show, I think that it would be worth exploring alternative ideas, a particular league for trans people. It might not have a lot of people in it, I don't know, but something like that. Or, you know, in some sports, like wrestling, figuring out, you know, different categories. Like if a 130-pound trans woman competes generally at the same category as a 150-pound cis woman, maybe you can do that. I don't really know, but obviously we need to figure something out. Maybe remove everybody's brain and then implant it into somebody else's body. I don't really know, but you know, let's see what we got here.
Are dominating women's sports. I say, okay, name them.
Right.
Okay.
Like, trans women are dominating women's sports. I say, okay, name them.
Leah Thompson, there was that UFC fighter that you know cracked that one woman's skull. Here's the thing. We don't have to be at the point where where trans women are dominating, because we know statistically that specifically a trans woman who goes through a puberty is going to have an unfair advantage. And if you allow trans women into cis women's sports, it's kind of hard to say like JK LOL and pull them out. I think that that's a big argument too.
Right.
Name three.
Definitely
Name
not me.
3 trans female athletes that are currently competing.
I don't think that
and who are
necessarily
currently
matters.
dominating.
Right. Please.
Or even have
I don't
won
even
a
think
single
I can do
event.
that.
I mean, assumptions. Should trans athletes compete in sports? Yeah, they should be able to. It's just maybe not with cis people. I don't know. I'm getting dumpstered. Holy moly. Okay. It's interesting that this is like a Jubilee style video from Anthony Padilla. I'm assuming it didn't do too well on his channel because I guess, I don't know.
Trans women have a biological advantage over cis women.
Yeah, I mean, that's a factual, we're at a point now though, that's like an objective truth. We've kind of we understand that like from an objective perspective. Just to be clear.
A friend of mine made a really good point about that recently.
Probably
for
not, but
competitive cycling. These Grand Tour teams and these corporate-backed teams will spend millions of dollars chasing the tiniest little marginal advantage that they can possibly get. Okay. I'm talking whether or not a sock is knit with a certain thread count and how high up your calf it goes. So if trans women truly were this major advantage in competitive sports and we would just come in and automatically win everything easily, every single Pro Tour team would be stacked. The entire roster would be trans women because they would see, oh, this is an advantage, let's do this.
Yes, okay. I think one of the problems is that there's no future sight for these individuals. They're not acknowledging that this is something that's relatively new, so it's not super widespread or implemented, and that's why you don't see as many trans people right now. But again, if you allow them to compete with cis women, you're going to see a lot more of them, and they will displace cisgender women. Even if it's only 1% of the athletes are trans in the girls division, they're still going to rise to the top.
But it's not an advantage, and that's why there's not even a single pro-trans woman in a Grand Tour competition, especially not anymore now that we've been banned.
Most of the top, like the Olympics Committee, the NCAAs, they have policies that trans athletes have to adhere to. Right. Exactly. That ensure.
Yeah, there's like a video from like More Plates, More Dates, and he goes through like there are policies that are implemented, but it doesn't necessarily mean that those if you go through a male puberty, you can't reverse that. The policies don't require you to have your bottom surgery, and I'm not saying that they should necessarily, but because I don't think that you should have to get bottom surgery to be considered passable, but it does have an issue. You're still producing testosterone even if you're on estrogen. and like you still went through that male puberty, you still have physiological advantages. To just say like, oh, they all go away it just doesn't happen.
Or that there's no unfair advantage. So it's like, when people say that, I'm like, there is not a crisis of comprehension.
Right.
There is a crisis of compassion, because you don't need to understand me to admit, to have humility and say, you don't know what you're talking about.
But
go research it, because the research is there, and I'm not going to...
The research disagrees with you, though. Why are you saying research when the research actively... Okay, cool.
Explain it to you, because every doctor... I don't have to. Right. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. Every doctor who is an expert, they already agree there is no unfair biological advantage.
That's not true at all. What are you talking about? The statistically... What the fuck is this person talking about? What are you making? You're making things up. What?
And this is over years and years of studying this. The Canadian Centre for Ethics just released a comprehensive study of 10 years of research on trans athletes, specifically trans women.
Transgender women and athletes in elite sport. No, I didn't mean to do that. I guess we'll take a look at that. We are... What? Gender, women, ATHLET, and elite sport, I mean, I'm curious. I'm going to lose this game anyway. Might as well just let it keep going. Okay, in qualitative studies, what is a qualitative study? Not to define like everything I'm looking at. Let's see. Collecting and analyzing numeral. Okay, they're just analyzing data. Trans women have reported facing significant barriers to returning to sports after they transition. Trans women are not a monolith. Racism, classism, ableism. Okay, that has nothing to do with the way that how effective they are in actually participating. Okay, so I read through the article enough to know that this article is kind of irrelevant. I'm going to explain to you why. One, it looks at testosterone or hormone levels, which isn't necessarily a marker. Two people with the same level of testosterone doesn't necessarily mean one is going to be better than the other person. There's so many other aspects. Two, they compare trans women to cis men for the most part. Then what they say is like, oh, trans women become weaker than they used to be when they go on HRT. That's not the conversation. Isn't do they become weaker? The conversation is, are they stronger than trans women? And like the reality is like, yeah, they generally have a pretty significant advantage if you go through male puberty. So this research doesn't really say anything other than we need to see more tests. But we know that trans women, like in sports, we see people like Leah Thomas or Thompson or whatever her last name is. They tend to dominate. It's going to happen consistently. You maintain so many other things, not just about how much estrogen or testosterone you have. There are other significant factors as well. Okay.
And they found no conclusive evidence that trans women have any biological, physical advantage over any other woman athlete.
They became, okay, the inconclusive doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Therefore, it's like,
why compare cis men to trans? They're basically comparing themselves to themselves. So when they were, or rather, I probably shouldn't have said cis. They compare how their bodies were before transition to post transition. It's like, yeah, of course they got weaker. Like, no shit, that's not the conversation.
Sports have to be the platform that we win this fight for equality, because they prove that you can strip us down to just our physical forms, and still it's fair. Right. And there is no evidence contrary.
Nobody's proved anything. You just said it was inconclusive. That's not proof in either direction. Either way, it's pretty conclusive that there is a biological advantage. But what are you talking about? What you're saying isn't even true.
Very. So it has to be athletics, because we prove that we are equal and we deserve a seat at that table.
And we've proven it so much over, like you said, over and over again. Like,
are they all athletes? Oh, they are.
Basic example, Jesse Owens, black man, stripped to the gods and delivered on top. And America saw that, oh, Jesse Owens can make us #1 in the world. Oh, black people, we need to leave.
Well, yeah, I understand the comparison, but there's a significant difference from a black person to a trans person, right? Two guys, one black, one white. There's very little difference between those two. It doesn't matter. Men and women are different, biologically speaking, pretty significantly. And I understand that trans women are not, they are women, but they still have the biology, like they have some biology of men, right? It's not like a hot, rude take. It's just a reality, and that gives them an unfair advantage. That's the conversation that exists there. So,
legalize. Let's make them, yes, Black people. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesse Owens has been stripped. And even after he did that, he still wasn't allowed to go in the club with the white man, with his teammates. That's crazy. Like you said, sports is always going to be at that forefront for change. And I just wanted to add going back to what you said, add one more 2 cents into that. Somebody told me that maybe I should step back and be a coach for other trans athletes and like help them to nurture and be that, you know? And I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I want to be the change that I want to see in the world, because I'm not gonna wait for anybody. We've been waiting and nothing's been happening. Listen, I'm done. So when he said that to me, I thought about it and I was like, no, thank you.
Yeah, I actually had
will be
someone,
that change.
Yeah, somebody said something similar to that effect to me recently, because the UCI just ripped my professional career out from underneath my feet in the middle of season 2 weeks before the World Championship. And I would love to teach and coach and help.
I don't know. Here's the thing. Okay, so far track and field cycling, my understanding is that when it comes to endurance sports, that advantage might disappear. I could be wrong about that, but this is mostly when it comes to like strength sports or burst sports, and I say that like moving quickly, like over a short period of time. Overall, my understanding endurance wise, like biological women might have an advantage. I could be wrong about that, but okay.
Other people to realize their dreams at some point.
Yes.
But I'm still in the height of my career.
Yes.
I'm not done yet.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
I'm not going to step down and teach somebody else how to do stuff just because they belong to the dominant class in society. And I just have to like sit in the background and not be seen.
What about girls that don't want to compete with trans women? Sports have always been separated. Yeah, I agree. Like, that's what I'm saying. I don't like, there should probably be that separation because you're going to have a biological advantage.
There should be a separate third category for trans people to compete in.
I mean, listen, the like that's an interesting idea. The problem with why that probably wouldn't work is there's probably not going to be enough trans women to make something. So the conversation really is about just, unfortunately, excluding trans women from sports or figuring out a way to make it fair. So.
You know, I wholeheartedly, strongly deny the third category interjection because I'm not third. I deserve to be a part of the female category. I'm female. Male.
Well, you're not female. That's not like you're a woman, 1000%. I'm all on board with that. But female is biological, right? That's a biological marker. I'm not like being transphobic. I trans women are women, but like there's a difference between male and female. That's sex. Sex is sex. Gender is gender. Those are two very different things.
Males deserve to be a part of the male category. As far as non-binary and trans non-binary, that's the conversation that you need to have with those individuals, because I cannot have a say in that topic. I'm not trans non-binary. A third category creates a reason for people to point fingers, a reason for people to be like, see, I told you. It's giving people a reason to be quiet. They're still going to make a problem about a third category.
Also, logistically, it cannot work. There are not enough
athletes in the world to create a third category.
Right. In Utah, let's take Utah for example. Utah is one of the states in America that banned trans athletes altogether. Do you know how many trans athletes were competing in the state of Utah when they passed that ban?
Not one.
One.
I was about to say probably
What is she gonna do? Just go play by herself?
Yeah,
like Kentucky, same thing. Two kids, and this is interscholastic
Same
athletics.
thing with the UCI as well. They enacted their ban recently in BMX freestyle. I was the only trans woman competing at an elite level in all forms of cycling. I think there's under 10 of us total, and like that's in every single different cycling discipline. So let's say they do want to have a third category. Cool, I get first place every time. Am I still getting equal prize purses? We can't even guarantee that for the cis women's category.
Right.
As well, like you mentioned about the establishing as an other. We can't even get people to respect women's sports, let alone trying to get them to respect trans women's sports. Like with the amount of resistance and just straight up genocide that we faced throughout history and are currently facing, if it weren't real, we would be gone. But the fact that we're still here, we're still fighting, that is just testament to the fact that like, this is real. Otherwise it would have
Like, what's real? Like, yeah, trans women are real. Okay.
stopped. As soon as we grew up, but that's not how this works.
And I just wanted to add to the fact that like how sports has like kept.
I feel like this is not a productive conversation. That's gonna have how are the comments looking? What a nice video discussing a non-controversial topic. Can't wait to read upon the civilized and respectful discussion. Interesting. All right, let's continue.
Me safe. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for sports. I've been able to camouflage with sports because I've seen how athletes had the ability to influence other people and gain respect from other people and really change the conversation, change the narrative, and make a difference. If being an athlete is the way that I can make a change growing up, I'm like, I'm gonna be the best that I can be. I'm gonna always try to be positive and be good. And like, when people were calling me gay, when people were like when my life was in danger, I was focused on practice. I was like, I gotta go to practice tomorrow. Like, no, I was really like, I really gotta focus on something. And it was practice, training, sports was always that positive light that kept me focused on I'm so glad that it wasn't taken away from me, but like it was interrupted at such a point where in my life where I knew how meaningful sports was to me, that I can still focus and I can still compete and I can still train, I can still do these things with the hope that I'm gonna get back to where get back on track to being an athlete. But before, if it was taken away from me as a child, God knows where I would be today.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I know that sports can be very impactful, gives you an outlet to get out some of like whatever's going on in your life. And I do respect that. I don't think that there's an issue having trans people in like non-competitive sports up until a certain age. But again, the introduction of trans women into these sports, it's going to create exclusion for cis women. And then it's going to exclude more cis women than it includes trans women. It's like, okay, so then are we really doing the right thing at that point? Or are we just engaging in it wrong?
God knows. I don't know, like, if I would be here around this table in this situation. And so I'm very fortunate that athletics and sports has gotten me to a point where I can be a voice of change.
Yeah.
Earlier this year in March, I left my hometown of Los Angeles, touched the Pacific Ocean, and proceeded to run 2,800 miles across America, ending in Jacksonville, Florida.
That's insane. I did not know that that's what you do, but now that I know, I'm like...
So when you say we're both runners, there's so many types of runners. I took an unconventional route across the Southwest and the southern part of the U.S., and that was on purpose. I chose deliberately to go through several of the states that are most impacted by anti-trans legislation. There have been over 500 pieces of anti-trans legislation.
Yeah, and that's true. That doesn't necessarily make them all sports, and that doesn't necessarily make them all right? There is a lot of anti-trans legislation. They're all generally wrong. And they're not super popular, honestly, from a voting perspective. I understand the hesitation of wanting trans women in sports until we figure that out. And I understand the hesitation around trans women in bathrooms. I get that as well. But I think that going to like a co-ed area makes more sense. So I get it. I do understand some of those. But that doesn't necessarily mean, just because most of them, in my opinion, seem to be wrong, doesn't mean that the sports ones are wrong.
And proposed this year alone, and about 350 of those pieces of legislation are actively in their state legislatures right now. And that's why we're here, right? Is to address misconceptions about the trans community. And I very much found that reflected in my run across America, which I think is incredibly encouraging and galvanizing, which is that every state I went to, people were like, be careful. And I'm like, of what? Be careful of what? Other people? They're afraid of me for no reason. I'm not going to be afraid of people that I don't know, because I refuse to perpetuate this ideology that we should be scared of each other. And I did find that the majority of people are ignorant but willing and wanting to learn. There's a huge desire of people across America to seek to understand. And I think that that's very encouraging, because as an educator, like I'm also a high school teacher, ignorance is just an invitation to educate.
That's the incredible thing, is like in the times that I've visited a few of those states and other places that are very dangerous for queer and trans people to exist, and some places just straight up illegal.
Can I look at the title of the video? Yeah, it's Are Trans Athletes Cheating?
It's a very scary thing. Like, you feel very vulnerable, and like that are very dangerous for queer and trans people to exist, and some places just straight up illegal.
Yeah, no, I don't know where it's illegal, but I get, not in America, but I understand what you're saying. I think a big problem, though, and that's really a big problem, is to group sports in with other trans issues. I would argue the majority of trans people don't give a fuck about sports. They're just trying to not be harassed and just trying to get like gender affirming care, which they deserve. You know, we should have a universal healthcare system, and that's something that should be covered. But I think that kind of mixing the sports conversation in with everything, I think that hurts the overall trans conversation. I think it hurts it.
It's a very scary thing. Like, you feel very vulnerable, and like just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, you can be a victim of some kind of hate because the laws not only don't protect you, but actively encourage it against you. The women's BMX movement in general is like very much in its infancy, to the point where
do people still like watch BMX? I was really big when I was a kid, but people give a shit anymore?
Where back when I first got into it, like, you could probably count the total number of women riding BMX in the world on your fingers and not run out. I remember in those like early years, I was so desperate to find a trans woman BMX rider to show me that like I can exist as myself, who I am is okay, and I can also have a place as a BMX rider. And unfortunately, at the time, that didn't exist. Like there weren't any who were out publicly and who were open. So as a kid, like getting into BMX, like I kind of was like enjoying the sport just to myself, but I never saw a future for myself. I never saw myself being a celebrated athlete in the sport. I just thought it was something that I could just kind of do in my own free time. And there was a point early in my career where I realized that the woman I needed to see when I was younger wasn't there because I was yet to become her.
Oh my God.
And it like,
yes.
Beautiful.
Getting to...
Listen, I can appreciate that this like gives them a really like positive feeling and sense, you know. And it's unfortunate because I think that the problem is I think that there are a lot of people like transphobic people who just don't want to see trans people happy, and I think that is a motivator for some people. When it comes to sports, I don't think that there's a whole lot of conservatives that are it's like a broken clock is right twice a day. You know what I mean? Like they're right about this, but it's not on purpose. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I interpret it. But still, you know,
experience that and like kind of heal the traumas that my past self experienced of not seeing a place for myself in the world, and like, you know, doing that like deep inner work and realizing that like all of those years of feeling like I wouldn't get to exist, I am proving now that I have a place in this world. I deserve it, and like I'm here and I'm not going anywhere.
That part.
Trans women have higher testosterone than cis women.
Gosh.
Generally speaking, after hormone replacement, it depends on the person, right? That doesn't matter. Again, that's not really the conversation. Testosterone isn't the only thing that's going to dictate whether you're doing better or not. Going through your puberty on testosterone will be a pretty significant aspect of it, though.
Trans women have higher testosterone than cis women. Oh my God, that conversation is so old and so boring.
It just doesn't
It's just
matter.
like the one
There's a way to
about-
test. It's
Yes.
called blood test.
Yeah.
And they
It
do
doesn't
that.
matter.
And we are forced to do that while cis athletes are not.
Right.
Our testosterone levels are undetectable, even by the most stringent, accurate, and precise of tests that are available. If there's a cis woman athlete who has lower testosterone than that, then she needs to go to a doctor and get
That
help
part.
because that is not healthy.
That part.
Trans women have lower testosterone than cis women athletes. And it's not even just that, you know, we can prove to them like, oh, we have lower testosterone, because now that we've proven that, they'll just move the goalposts.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the original arguments meant to...
Well, yeah, it's part of the factor, but still, I mean, like, you're going to be more masculine. You're going to have, like, a lot of those features. I mean, there's tons of different things. There's bone density, there's limb length, there's flexibility. There's so many different aspects. It's not just about testosterone. You know, it's also about testosterone after you've basically transitioned. Because here's the thing. This is interesting. This is something that I learned somewhere recently. There was a trans woman on a Jubilee panel, or a trans man, excuse me. And I've had some people in my chat say this, and I was always skeptical. And they're like, yeah, I detransitioned once I hit a certain point where of passability that I was comfortable with. And then they stopped taking some or most of their hormones because they didn't need to anymore. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. Why is that relevant here? Because if you are a trans person that can basically come off of your meds and be able to maintain a certain aspect of yourself at a certain point, then that means that if you went through a puberty, you're going to maintain that certain aspect of yourself too, even if you go on hormones that alter some of your, I guess you said physiology, right? You're not going to always lose those advantages. Now, if we're having a conversation about trans women who didn't go through a male puberty, that's a different conversation. Maybe that would be fair. I don't know. But we're talking about people who went through their entire developmental cycle on hormones or going through like the male puberty, right? They are women, but it's male, biologically speaking, they're male, even though they are gender women. And you're not going to lose all of that. Will you lose some of it? Of course, compared to yourself, but compared to the general of other people, of course not. You might say, well, isn't sports about advantages? Yeah, for men. Women's sports is about sports for women, and we need to make it female because you will see a massive rise for trans women. And so the conversation is, do you exclude trans women or do you exclude cis women? That's really what it boils down to. That really is what the conversation is at. And, we have to make hard choices, and I think it's, maintained so that the majority of people will be happier in a competitive space,
You stop any women from participating in elite level sports was that it was going to affect your estrogen and testosterone levels, and it was going to turn you manly, and like riding a bike is going to make you gay. And
let's be real. Riding a bike does make a man gay.
I do ride bikes and I am gay, but I don't think I don't think it's causative.
Correlation is not causation.
Yeah, those same arguments keep getting repeated over and over to just marginalize different classes of people, and it's just our turn through the ringer.
My organization, World Athletics, I had a call with them, and they told me that to level the biology, just to put it out there, is to limit blood oxygen level. In simple terms, blood oxygen level is something that athletes work their whole entire life to increase, to get better.
Okay.
That's why Michael Phelps is so fast in the pool. That's why certain athletes like Sayla McLaughlin is so fast around the track, and she has such a fast time because she's worked her whole life to develop that blood oxygen level. Now, they're saying that the medical implications that they're implementing on trans women is to take away that from the body. Our blood oxygen level is being so limited to the point that we can't improve in the sport. We can't get better.
Well, right, but that's because you have such a significant advantage, generally speaking. The unfortunate reality is like a trans woman is not going to have to work as hard to hit the same spot as a cis woman is. That doesn't mean that they don't work hard in general, but that's just the generality of the situation.
My blood is getting thicker, that's not a normal thing.
With all of these straw man arguments, it's not about trans women. It's not about testosterone. It's not about bone density. It's not about fairness. And we can prove that.
So it is about trans women. Some of it is not about fairness. I agree that, again, there are some conservatives that are just trying to be anti-trans, but they just happen to be right this time about like the advantages. That's really what that boils down to.
Because nobody gave a shit about women's sports before this. No one gives a shit about the fact that 86% of collegiate institutions do not comply with Title IX. For those that don't know what Title IX is, it was passed in the 80s to ensure gender equality, equality of resources for male and female athletes. So if you want to talk,
I don't know what that means.
Talk about fairness in sports, women's sports, trans.
Are they talking about getting paid or something? Because they seem to get paid pretty well considering how much money they pull in.
People in sports, let's talk about what it's really about, because it's not about that.
Well, hello there. I hope you're enjoying the first episode of our new series, Assumptions. I've been developing this with the Press Alike team, working very closely here with Nicole, who is producing it. She's a producer of I Spent Today With and is now also producing Assumptions. She's the voice behind it.
It's interesting. I like it. I feel like I like the Jubilee style because there's a little bit of pushback. It would be a little bit like redundant if they just had Jubilee. They do exactly what Jubilee does. But, I would like to see an interesting bit of pushback on some of this. Maybe the first, 90% of it focuses on one thing, and then you have, or 80% of it, and then you have somebody come in and be like, hey, I heard you make these claims. I want to have a conversation about that. That'd be kind of interesting.
And camera that you'll often hear.
I'm with it every step of the way, from booking the guests to making sure the edit looks good.
Is this person trans as well? Sorry, I'm not like being rude about it. I'm just curious.
And I've actually been in an I Spent a Day With episode before. You may remember me from I Spent a Day With Trans Women.
How did I know? Bro, I can clock it. I'm so good at it. I'm not saying anything bad. Like, she's just, you know, she's attractive. Like, she's a woman. I'm just saying I could clock it. I got it.
I also just want to add that this series celebrates the humanity that we all experience and allows us to get a deeper understanding of ourselves by seeing other people face the assumptions that they hear about themselves every single day. We want to foster a community for inquisitive thinking.
Well, just to be clear, it's not really assumptions. It's kind of.
Okay. And hate will not be tolerated. That means you.
I like hate.
That means you.
I like hatred.
Watching. I've been wanting to create an extension for the I Spent a Day With series for a long time now, and I always imagined it would be really interesting to see what the guests that I sit down with would be like if they were interacting with each other instead of with me. Like next week, we're bringing back some of the guests from I Spent a Day With Asexuals to get a deeper look at the conversations that asexuals have amongst themselves rather than with us.
We're also going to be having openly gay pastors on, furries, and Disney adults. Please let us know down in—
Bro, I'm a fucking Disney adult. Let me on this so bad, dude. Let me on here, dude.
In the comments, if there's any groups of people that you want to hear about.
Where did I hide the glass measuring cup? I have no idea.
Assumptions about them.
Or if you've heard other people have a—
Bro, I swear to God, wife, if you're in the chat, message Anthony Padilla, because I will, okay, listen. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about me. I'm a fucking weirdo. I will defend Disney adults to the death. I will defend the Disney adults to the death in the most entertaining way possible. Okay, I'm a nerd. I'm like a debate lord sometimes, not all the time. I can defend the Disney adults because here's my thing: people, oh, Disney, you're cringe, you're cringe, you're cringe. You dress up like your favorite fucking sports guy, and then you beat your wife, and you're gonna tell me I'm cringe because I go look at fucking animals, dude? Shut up! Shut the front door. Shut the front door, bro.
Assumptions about them, and you're like, that cannot possibly be accurate at all.
Now, let's get back into it.
This is not only affecting transgender women, but it's also like on another subculture of how it's affecting all women.
We will dress to the fucking teeth in Disney gear. I will come with my wife. Will have like 5 lounge fly bags. I will show up with I will show up in fucking droves on that one.
Affecting intersex, it's affecting women that are, you know, like you would never know what is going on in their biology unless exposed. I
understand what they're saying. From a non-sports perspective, like, yeah, what's your business of what somebody's gender or sex or whatever is? But again, we're talking about sports, and I don't want this to be rude because I really don't mean it in a rude way. You can tell. That's not meant to be rude or negative or not nice, but like you can tell a lot of times. You can tell if somebody's trans or not.
That's a really shallow way of thinking.
The entire point of why they do this is to enforce a specific brand of womanhood and to narrowly define what is a woman. And that branding is based on if they are cis, if they are thin and small boned, if they are white. It is based on European standards. And
you're getting too woke on this. It's not gonna work. Historically, yeah, sure, a lot of those are true, but you're gonna see a lot of pushback from like the black community and stuff on a lot of these things in general because it's just not comparable. Again, the difference between a black and a white man is so significantly different than the difference between like a biological male and female. So you're going to kind of lose a lot of people on that. I just don't think it's the great way to. I don't think it makes your point for you. I just don't think it makes your point.
And it excludes anyone who doesn't conform to that. Mm-hmm. That's why it is no coincidence that most of these cis athletes who are getting caught up in these bans on trans athletes are women of color.
A lot of black women bodies are being policed, and to be strong.
5 women's banned on the Tokyo Olympics. Yeah, I think that there were some black women that were banned from that. That's wrong. I agree, but
strong and to be like.
They said they had naturally high levels of testosterone. That might be true. They might also be on gear. People take steroids in all competitive sports. So I said that backwards. What did I say backwards? What did I say wrong? That I wasn't paying attention to. Are you talking to me?
You know,
yeah, I'll wear fucking ears to the thing. I don't care. But we have like probably 20 different ears, Disney ears.
Muscular, and it's not.
Baby, wife, if you're listening, bring in the new wedding bag that I just bought you.
That's not what women's supposed to look like. But I'm sorry, I'm going to take it back to slavery times. We were put in these harsh conditions to be able to survive. which in over time we develop the bodies that we have to survive, which is athletic bodies, and athletic bodies are.
Is she saying that we bred? I mean, correct me if I'm hearing this wrong. Is she saying that we bred black people to have particular? I mean, maybe, maybe. Okay, that guy
are predominantly black people because we were put in those conditions to, fight and to
God, do you think that ears are really necessary at your age? Suck my balls. You think that's necessary? I'm gonna lose already because they weirdly decided to like sapper me.
And to eat the foods that make us strong and sustainable. I don't know what else to say. That's not being talked about.
Yes, it was hundreds of years.
You said there's a significant difference between a white man. Oh, I said that. I thought I said there isn't a significant difference between a white and black person compared to men and women. There isn't a significant difference in a white and a black person. There is a significant difference between male and female. That's what I meant to say.
Of the enslavement of black people through chattel slavery. And essentially,
chattel, I'm pretty sure it's chattel slavery. Maybe I'm wrong.
Being bred to be as strong and productive as farm workers as possible.
Yes.
And now fast forward to when integration was happening within sports. That was one of the arguments that people were making against black people being able to compete with white people, is that black people were literally bred for generations to be stronger and faster and more physically fit.
Literally.
And that it wouldn't be fair to have them compete against white people. And it's that same argument being repeated over and over again of trying to narrow that window of who counts as a woman, who counts as a man, who counts as a person and deserves human rights.
I was just going to say, I think that is our best argument for inclusion, because even in the duration of this conversation, you can see this feels a little like whack-a-mole, right? It's like, first it's this and then it's that, and then the goalposts are moving and it's changing. And these systems of, white supremacy, patriarchy, heteropatriarchy are shapeshifters. They're insidious shapeshifters, and you can't keep track. And that is the number one argument.
Again, when it comes to trans people, I think it's just that there is a biological advantage, and that's the only...
for people to be more inclusive, because it's like, if you don't think that this affects you, it does. And if it doesn't yet, it will. Because eventually, today it's trans people, but tomorrow it's going to be you. And you better...
I disagree with that, kind of, maybe. I mean, like, right now, if anything, the anti-trans sentiment is probably reducing the amount of hatred going on into other groups of people. So, racism isn't as acceptable as transphobia, I'll tell you that. So maybe I guess it would be. I guess there's a level of truth to that. I don't know.
Better be ready.
And we should not be allowing power to reside in the hands of people who do not have lived experience of what they're talking about.
I think that you probably shouldn't have pulled down 3 incredibly woke trans women. But okay.
That was the thing that was so...
And if you're making a decision about people in the world, those people should be at the table. If you're going to make a decision about banning transgender women from sports, transgender women need to be at that table.
Oh, I agree. They should be at the table. Doesn't mean that they're right, but they should have a voice.
Along with anti-transgender people, if you want to do that too.
And that's the issue, why we keep seeing this pattern repeated all over the world throughout history, is the power is given to those who are least affected, assuming that they can rule on this objectively, when it's no, you just don't know enough about this to be able to make a sound decision.
I got invited to have a dialogue with an advisor.
I'll agree that the initial reaction to adding or removing trans people probably wasn't based on any actual scientific data. And probably a disgust response, an unjustifiable disgust response, but that's how a lot of people, engage. Like, oh, I don't like that, so it's bad. But that doesn't mean that they were wrong now that the data's out.
To the LGBTQ caucus in the U.S. House of Representatives, which, by the way, is the biggest caucus. It is now the biggest caucus in the House of Reps.
We love a big caucus.
So it's like,
that is a joke I'd make.
So the LGBTQ caucus in the House of Reps, and I asked him, and he's a gay man, a cisgender gay man, what do you think is the path forward for trans acceptance? And he said, I've been working here many years. And I'll tell you word for word, verbatim, what people are saying about trans people is exactly what they said about gay people in the early 2000s.
It's also what they said about black
what does that do with sports?
people before as well.
Yes, but
Same
for that
thing.
reason, he said, I have hope. Because I saw the way that...
Like, yeah, sure, they used to think that homosexuality was a mental disorder, and it's not, right? But that gets into a whole conversation about like how you classify gender dysphoria. Should it be classified as a mental disorder? Is the bigger issue that there's a stigma on mental disorders rather than like calling people like mentally ill necessarily? I mean, it is a mental condition, but so is like ADHD. You know, it gets into a very complicated, like, will you get the correct level of treatment if it's no longer considered like a if it's no longer categorized in the DSM-5, if it's categorized as a sexual health condition, are you going to get the right treatment? Those are the conversations that I would wonder, because I understand wanting to change it from it being considered like in the DSM-5 to taking it out of there, because people will say, well, you just have a mental issue, so you're crazy, and they'll be invalidating of trans people, even though, like, again, like ADHD is in there too. You wouldn't invalidate someone's for that, or autism, so like it's kind of silly to do it over trans people. But again, I just hope that you get the right. I don't really care how it's classified as long as the correct help is gotten, which is obviously very important. You want to make sure people get the correct treatment they need.
Gay people and lesbian people were treated and slowly gained acceptance, and now are generally accepted. You know, you walk down the street and see two men holding hands. I go, the odds of them getting hate crimed is low. Yeah. But the odds of a trans person getting hate crimed is high.
Very much so.
But he said
it
gives me hope, because it was exactly the same type of fear-mongering, and we persisted. But it's going to take some time, and it's going to be a brutal fight. But
yeah, I would argue that focusing on sports is probably going to have a negative impact on the movement, because it's like the sports focus doesn't seem to be, the most necessary. But
it will happen, because we have always existed, and we will continue to exist.
And it's going to take solidarity, and not just as an act of charity of like, oh, wow, I'm gay, so I can relate and understand the struggle of trans people being targeted, but in the fact that if you don't stick up for trans people now, gay people are next. You have those legal rights now, but those can be taken away. It is already happening in Italy that children are being taken away from gay parents, and lesbian partners aren't being allowed to adopt children. So it's weird. Not like we're at...
Is that real? Away kids from gay parents. I'm curious about that. The government issued orders that municipalities stop the registration of most children with same-sex parents, complicating access to schooling and medical services. Oh, well, Italy's a fucking shit country. No offense. I like Italian people. Well, no, I like Italian people, but Italy, do you ever, like, that places, they're just like a shitty country. Like, they age of consent's like 15 over there too. Like, they're not great. This is dumb, obviously. You shouldn't be, like, if you look at the data, listen, not for nothing, but if you look at this from a purely biological perspective, it's like gay people are, in my opinion, are absolutely like imperative to the survival of just people. And this is just purely scientific, right? First and foremost, it happens in nature. Very obviously, and I think it's intentional. If you look at a mother, if she has multiple boys, every additional boy has a higher chance of being gay. This is an observed statistic. What does that recommend to you? Well, or what does that tell us? Well, that there's hormone washing in the womb that will create a form of a biological response to make somebody gay, so that household has people to take care of kids. If you look at the data, gay people, both men and women, they tend to adopt more. And they tend to have less of their own kids, which means they take their resources and dump them into other people. So that gay uncle, that gay aunt is spending money on their nieces and nephews for that reason. So that makes a lot of sense. And so the same thing when you adopt a kid, you're adopting somebody that to society is considered undesirable, not to me, but to society. That's why they're in adoption agencies. And it's good to help LGBTQ people get access to the kids. What are you better off as, being an orphan or having gay parents? Gay parents, 1,000%. It makes perfect sense. There's no reason not to have that happen.
Asking you to stick up for us as something that you're doing to be nice, but because if you don't stick up for us now, there's not going to be anybody to stick up for you when they come for you, because you're next.
We're coming for you, brother.
People transition strictly to dominate at sports.
No, of course not.
Their favorite word, as is like trans women.
Transitioning puts a lot of stress on your body. Nobody's transitioning just to be good at sports. This isn't fucking Joanna Man. So that's not true. The only people doing that are like trolls that are like, oh, guys, look at me. And they're just being stupid, and they decide to like transition just to compete to prove a point. But actual trans people, Like they're not transitioning just to compete in sports. It's part of what makes it helps them competing in the sport of their, gender, makes them feel more valid. And I respect that, and I understand that. But it's unfortunately there's a negative outcome for cis people. Would I rather a gay dad or a thought mom? Okay.
Women are dominating women's sports. I say, okay, name them.
Right.
Name 3. Name 3 trans female athletes that are currently competing and who are currently dominating.
Right, please.
Or even have won a single event.
Right.
I can't name them.
Didn't Leah Thompson destroy world records? It's happening. It's just not as widespread because they're not as accepted yet.
Made it to the Olympics in one goal.
And we probably are friends with all of the trans women athletes.
Because there aren't any. The UCI just banned trans women athletes because a single trans woman won a low-level international event, not even a World Cup, not a World Championship, and that was what spurred...
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to nip it in the bud, nip it in the brother, you know what I mean?
Their recent decision to ban us from competition, because there is not a single trans woman who has even won a major elite level event, let alone is dominating. When we say that these studies are being done to see if there are unfair advantages, this is not medical professionals coming in with the intention of proving that trans rights should exist. It is coming in with the intention of trying to justify discrimination and bigotry. And in the UCI's recent announcement, their own medical director, Xavier Bygard, straight up admitted that they do not have justification to enact this discrimination, that they're just doing it for funsies.
Who's that?
The medical director, Xavier Bygard. And in the UCI's recent announcement, their own medical director, Xavier Bygard, straight up admitted that they do not have justification to enact this discrimination, that they're just doing it for funsies, for the sake of, for the sake of being overly cautious. And that's not how you operate in the realm of human rights. You do not.
Okay, understanding the UCI's policies for transgender. I mean, okay, just a quick look through it. It's they said that there's new research out, and that's why they're implementing new policies. So what she's saying, that they announced that there's no actual justifier for that. That's not true. It's in the okay, whatever.
Discriminate until proven otherwise. It is inclusive unless you can show that you have a damn good.
Listen, the problem with getting, it's not even that we have the evidence, we already know. But the problem with, you'd have to let trans people compete in sports to truly know what's going to happen. Every example we see, they seem to, break world records, but there's so many different factors. It's part of it's your blood, your hormone levels, your plasma levels, your oxygen levels, your hip, your bone density, or this or that. The only thing you could really do is let trans people compete in sports and see how it goes. You will see trans people rise to the top. All the information we have shows us that they have a biological advantage. Most people can concede that now, and now they're just like, well, isn't that the point of sports, right? It's part of male sports, not what female sports. And yeah, we know that. The only way to get 100% objective data would be to let trans people compete. But if we let them compete, how do you remove them once they started competing and they start taking titles, and it starts making it so that some cis women will lose out on opportunities,
Good reason to enact discrimination. There's always people that are like, oh, well, there's two sides to this argument. I'm like, well, here's the two sides is we are just asking for a chance to try. We just want the opportunity to compete and participate and do our best.
Literally.
Yeah, and then that, okay.
And just have a chance to try to win. What the other side is demanding is a guaranteed victory.
Yeah.
There is no human right to winning. There is a human right to participate into sport and to have a chance.
Yes.
And that's why there are no two sides to this argument, because the other side is not asking for something reasonable. They're asking for the success.
Well, the other side is cisgender women asking to play. The problem is, whether you're trans affirming or not, I'm very trans affirming, is that it can be very detrimental to your career if you disagree with some public narratives, and that makes some cisgender women athletes feel uncomfortable coming forward because they feel like they might get in trouble. And so that's a factor as well. I think people need to kind of consider there.
Be handed to them just on account of being born as who they are.
The notion that any man can enter any woman's sport and be superior at that sport, that any woman who's been training her whole life That is like, do you hear?
What the fuck are you talking about? Like, generally speaking, yes, it'll happen. Obviously, if somebody who's completely untrained man will probably lose to a trained woman, but like, we're not having a conversation about trained versus untrained. We're having a conversation about like two people training and one of them having an advantage biologically. What are you talking about?
That, like, it's so sexist, it's so misogynist.
But what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like, this is just such a weird hill to die on. We already know that there's like a significant advantage being a man. What?
That it is predicated on the idea that male bodies are biologically superior than female bodies.
What the fuck? Bro, you've completely lost me with this. What are you talking about? Yeah, well, okay, so what superior in sports? Like, yes, the male body is superior in sports. Doesn't make them superior overall, right? Like, obviously, women's or female bodies are superior at making babies, right? But at sports, like, yeah, what's the point of this conversation anymore? Like, is this helpful? Like, who the fuck now what's that? What a hill to die on. Like, why die on this hill?
Maybe just bodies, brains, because now even the chess organization.
I know, like chess, it's crazy.
I mean,
chess is different and probably more complicated, but okay. I mean, when it comes to chess, like, first of all, male and female brains are a bit different, but we don't know how much of that is socialized and how much of that isn't. You know, I saw an excellent thing from a guy who did chess clubs, and he was like, you know, I think the only reason that women aren't really in the chess clubs is because it's not an inclusive space when you're young. You get into these things when you're young. And so for a lot of younger girls, you know, a lot of it's social. A lot of the boys will have meltdowns if they lose to a girl, which it makes the girls not want to play. They'll bully and harass the girls. So, like, yeah, chess though is different. Same thing like video games. If you know, you develop a lot of your skill when you're young. And so if you are not able to get access to developing that skill when you're young, you're probably not going to be that good at it. So things that are generally exclusionary to girls, like video games can be, some of the atmospheres and environments, are going to make it more difficult for, you know, girls to compete, to do it when they're younger and be more competitive when they get older. So we might see a shift as time goes on, but that's completely irrelevant.
I've had guys say that about BMX freestyle, like, oh, I could enter a World Cup and win. It's like, honey, you could not even drop in on these ramps.
Nobody's saying this.
Literally.
They're literally limiting me to collegiate and lower sports. They're not giving me the ability to move on to elite and international sports because they see that I'm capable of improving and doing good. Obviously, I'm going to dominate every freaking time. I'm a
because you're trans.
Olympic. I'm an Olympic opal athlete. Like, I'm past college. I'm past high school. I'm past anything in between. The next level for me is Olympic and international sports. If you're going to limit me and keep me there, I'm always going to win. I'm always going to dominate. I'm always going to do what I'm meant to do, which is execute. When we talk about it, they will still overlook it. They don't care. They don't care because they already have their preconceived ideas of what I should be and what I should stay in my lane and what lane I should be in.
Everybody does not have a chance to compete, then you have not beaten the best.
Yes.
You cannot have a world championship or a World Cup where you exclude people based on discrimination.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with discrimination. We exclude, like, actual biological cis men from playing with women. That's discrimination. Saying the word discrimination doesn't make you, like, isn't an instant good. Discrimination is not inherently bad. We discriminate all the time. Like, that's part of the thing. We discriminate from letting adults go into playpens. We discriminate from letting, like, actual, like, cisgendered men playing with cisgendered women in sports because it can be harmful and dangerous. We discriminate against people who don't know how to drive from driving. We discriminate from people going into grocery stores naked. We discriminate from people doing stuff all the time, right? It's what is the justifier for that discrimination? If your justifier of discrimination is like, oh, because I don't like a certain group of people, it's wrong. If your justifier is like, oh, there's a biological advantage, then you're right. Then your discrimination is okay. So you can't just use the word discrimination like it's this end-all be-all bad boy language.
Everybody doesn't have a chance to try.
Yes.
It is not
like when you're dating, you're discriminating against people that you don't have a preference for. Who cares?
A world title. You have not beaten everybody in the world, and you didn't get the opportunity to.
And the Olympic, the whole point of the Olympics is for inclusion and inclusion of all people, regardless of race, gender identity, sex, or sexual orientation. The list goes on and on.
Line
and we
4
are
of the
on
Olympic
that list.
Charter is that sport is a human right.
Yes,
It does not
sports is
say
a human.
The practice of sport is a human right. Yeah, you could practice whatever you want, but the competition of sport isn't necessarily a human right. That would be where I would contest.
Right.
a guaranteed win for the class of society that you belong to as a human right. It is that sport is a human right.
Right.
They've always broken their own rules, though, especially when it comes to any form of human rights. For example, the UCI has had in place rules for years that the prize purses between men and women's categories should be the same. That did not happen, actually, at World Cups until this year. Up until...
Okay, I mean, I don't care. Mostly because I'm sure that men pull in more money. So
recently, if you got first place in the men's category at a World Cup, the first place prize was 9,000 euros. If you got first place in the women's category, it was 1,500 euros. The flight to get there was 2,000. That was a rule that they...
Well, I'm sure that you're getting more. I mean, you're going to get more through sponsorships anyway, so I don't necessarily care, but okay.
Made themselves. This wasn't even something that the IOC had said, like, you need to do. This was their own rule that, like, the contest should have equal prize purses, and they weren't doing that. They are very happy to break their own rules. But if you step a toe out of line, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
As trans women are women. We have been competing with cis women for decades now, and we haven't.
No, you haven't. I'm sure that there are some people who are, but it hasn't been enough of a robust movement for us to for people to start paying attention.
Seen any magical domination yet, because we're never going to. We are women just as much as a cis woman is a woman.
Sure, but there's 3 categories where we have to acknowledge that the differences between trans and cis women, right? In most categories, it doesn't matter, right? When you're just going out your day to day, doing this, doing that, grocery shopping, whatever. The 3 categories are this: dating, obviously, sports, obviously, and when you go to a doctor, because you're going to still have some biological aspects. That one's not relevant to us, though. So mostly dates and dating and sports, and locker rooms, which I would consider like in that sports category. So that's why I didn't say that. So yeah,
these issues don't apply to trans men athletes.
Oh yeah, they don't. That's why nobody cares. Nobody thinks a trans man is going to be competitive with a cisgender man in any capacity. That's why nobody cares. Nobody talks about that. And you could argue that because of that, like that helps the argument. The fact that not a single person complains about trans men competing with cisgender men shows you that clearly there's no worry of a biological advantage, because it doesn't exist there, because we know that biologically men are going to be more superior in sports than women. And so if anything, it's morally consistent. You would think that if it was purely transphobia based, that there would be more complaints about trans men, but there isn't. I'm not saying that there isn't transphobia based. I'd say that most of the time trans women are the ones that are getting hit with transphobia. But like, I think that there's an argument to be made there. It's like, okay, if it's all transphobia, how come you're not seeing any issue in that front, or in that category,
Anyone who's paying attention to the legislation that's being passed, to the dialogue, knows that everything about equality in sports is around, it targets trans women, specifically trans women of color. Why is it that the same?
Why does it target trans women of color? I don't think that that's true. Like trans women of color, trans black women, they face more issues, of course, violence and whatnot, mostly in their own community. But like, that has nothing to do with, what the fuck does that have to do with sports? I don't think that's true with sports.
Arguments are not being applied to trans men. Well, let's think about it. It's because
trans men don't pose a competitive threat.
Nobody who is transphobic considers trans masculine people a threat, because we are seen as confused women. And
no, it's because you're not competitively anything. Like, nobody cares competitively. What?
Obviously, women are not a threat. It really speaks to like the intersectionality of.
Right, you just made up your fucking argument. Stop. This is such an annoying baby argument. Come on, get the fuck out of here. That has nothing to do with that. You just made that shit up. Get the fuck out of here. What?
Transphobia, and how trans women are the target because of these narrow definitions of femininity that challenge men. I, as a trans masculine person, I am not a threat to a cisgender man's masculinity,
because it's not about masculinity. It's just because you're just not you're not going to be competitive.
Because he doesn't see me as masculine, and that's why the worst transphobia I have faced, conversely, is from cisgender women. They see me as someone who has broken free from and is living proof that they didn't have to sacrifice themselves. I, as a trans person, have an unshakable and irrevocable sense of who I am. And that is not a threat.
They're literally doing the same thing but opposite with trans men.
Opposite?
So the conversation is also with them, it's just not being talked about, and it's just being shoved aside. Like, trans men and minorities in general should be a part of this conversation because they are targeted a minority group. So if you want to come for one of us, you're going to come for all of us, kind of thing.
That, and also trans men don't suit the narrative. Like, having a successful trans male athlete doesn't suit their narrative.
Because there's no successful trans male athletes. There's no narrative. They just don't exist. What the fuck are you yapping about?
Of the unbreakable, massive difference between sexes, because according to them, that's a woman beating men.
What the fuck are you talking about? This conversation is just like silly. You know, like these individuals, they need pushback. They live in a fucking the bubble. Holy shit.
So it doesn't suit what they're trying to tell everyone. So they just ignore it.
They're like, it doesn't suit their narrative. The narrative that biological men are superior, superior in sports to biological women. And it's like, since it does suit that narrative to not give a shit about trans men in the sports capacity, because that's the whole point, is that there's no biological threat there, and it's shown by them not being a biological threat. I'm not saying biological threat. Now, them not being competitive in sports. I don't want to say the word threat. I'm not trying to like fucking sound the alarm. It's not like that deep. But you understand the point that I'm making. What are you yapping about?
Trans people won't stop making sports political.
I am.
I don't even know what that means, but okay.
An ultramarathoner. I am a distance runner. I also happen to be trans. Those things are completely unrelated.
I guess.
But
you're a
my
trans
very
man,
humanity
right? So
and existence is being politicized by powers that seek to eradicate us. So I agree. Sports should not be political. I'm not the one politicizing them.
Yeah, that's like when people say, if you're talking about trans liberation, they're like, well, I don't want to talk about politics. It's like, our existence is not political. You have politicized it, but our existence is not politics.
It's about your humanity.
That said, though, the entire function of sports is partly as a political tool. The modern establishment of the Olympic Games is to drive political unity between countries across the world. So it is meant to be a powerful tool for social change. That's why it always has been and always will be. You may not like it that it is, but sports are inherently political. They are a part of human life, and for as much as power will shift in society, that will be a part of human life.
As trans people, like, we offer so much to society. We offer like awareness, change, exposure. If you feel like you hate somebody just because of how they exist and show up in the world, then that's something that you have to look inside yourself and deal with and be like, why do I feel this way? Just because we look different and we are different, we're not bad. We're not evil. We're not, just give us that benefit of the doubt that we're good people. And we're just like you.
Transness is liberation and freedom and possibility. Freedom is not the ability to make other people be just like you. Freedom is the ability to express yourself as whatever existence you want to portray. Freedom is the ability to exist as yourself without repression. And transness and trans people show that that is possible on a level never realized by people who can't conceptualize it.
Gender identity, questioning, exploration, understanding, that is not just for trans people. That is for everyone. And that is the greatest gift that trans and gender nonconforming people offer. Society is possibility and the invitation to imagine otherwise. Trans people say, I will not be contained. We look at what is offered to us based on our gender assigned at birth and say, thank you, I'm going to build something more beautiful and colorful and incredible than you could ever even imagine. And that, I think that is what liberation looks like for all of us. That's the work. That's the therapy. That's the healing, is like, are you ready to heal with us? And on the other side of that is so much love and so much joy and so much freedom.
Okay. listen, first of all, I enjoy, checking out Anthony Padilla's content sometimes. I like the general stuff that he does when he has conversations. I like this. This was an interesting video. I like this structure. I kind of liked it. I just feel like you took three of the most it would have been nice to get some form of pushback on this new Anthony. Okay. Excuse me. That's like burping a little bit. When it comes to this new Anthony Padilla segment, I forget what he calls it. Assumptions. I like it. I like his other content too. Like I see him talking to other people. And I'll watch sometimes. I think that they're great. I like this idea of assumptions. I just feel like there's something missing. Obviously, if you did a panel, it would be too much like Jubilee, and I doubt that they want to just be a Jubilee clone. But I think that there could be something nice after watching this conversation with these three trans athletes. Some form of way of giving pushback would have been nice, because some of the things that they said were kind of insane. I disagreed with a lot of it. I think that they're nice. I respect what they have to say. Obviously, doing a pushback like right in the moment would be silly, but I think maybe a designated moment at the end of the video for somebody to come in and give a little pushback, even if it's only like 10 or 20% of the video, of like, hey, you said this, I kind of disagree here, and give them a moment to rebut and then move on. Like, don't make it a whole discussion. Say like, hey, you mentioned in your video that nobody cares about trans men when it comes to sports, and that proves our point. It's like, no, it doesn't. The reason nobody's really threatened by trans men in sports is because they're not really competitive with cisgendered men in really most sports, right? Which is kind of consistent with people being frustrated with trans women, which are women, but when it comes to sports, there is a biological advantage. It's consistent because, like, biologically speaking, there's not that much of a threat there, or not. I don't want to use the word threat. There's not that much of a competitive nature when it comes to a trans man, but when it comes to a trans woman, like, you still maintain those advantages if you go through a male puberty. When it comes to non-male puberty, that's a different conversation. It'd be nice to see somebody push back a little bit and just be able to say, hey, you said this, here's my rebuttal, and then they give them an opportunity to all respond and then move on. Don't even let the guy respond or the girl or the person respond back. Just like a quick little, here's my rebut. I want to throw that out there. Like, you have time to respond, but not make it a huge part of the video. You had a half-hour video. You went through 3 or 4 different questions. Let somebody push back just a little bit for about like a minute each on every of those questions. Let them give a shit. That would have been nice. That's my personal recommendation to that. But outside of that, I thought it was great. I enjoyed reacting to that. So that was cool.